When deploying devices and applications within a cloud environment, you're likely to be using both Azure AD and Microsoft Intune. When configured correctly, they work really well together. Let's review how Azure AD and Intune work together before we explore how to troubleshoot related issues. Within an organization, users and devices need to be authenticated in order to provide them with access to corporate-owned resources and applications. Azure Active Directory, or Azure AD, provides this authentication for Microsoft Cloud services and other linked services. Azure AD consists of a simple cloud-based database of users and devices, together with their associated permissions, and provides single sign-on, which allows users to use just one username and password for multiple services. Microsoft Intune is a mobile device management solution. Once devices are enrolled into Intune, they can be managed by central IT. Intune can control device configuration, security, manage access, and deploy apps for all desktop and mobile devices that your end users work with. Devices can be manually enrolled by administrators, but it's far more efficient to allow users to auto-enroll their devices. Devices can be auto-enrolled into Intune in two ways. End users can register their own personal or bring your own devices into Azure AD. This is where end users are allowed to use their own personal devices to access corporate data. When an end user registers their device, Azure Active Directory will auto-enroll the device into management. Intune then has limited management of the device. Alternatively, devices can be joined. Company-owned devices are normally joined to Azure AD, which will then auto-enroll the device into Intune. Joining provides extra benefits because devices can be fully managed by Intune. For this course, we'll be concentrating on resolving issues specifically with the Azure AD Join process. Deployment issues will occur if you've not configured Azure AD correctly. There are several setup steps required. First, you need to ensure that all of your users have a valid user account within Azure AD. Next, you need to configure Azure AD custom branding within the Azure AD Admin Center. Company branding is required for Windows Autopilot and to display an organizational-specific logon page during the deployment process. This is useful so that your users can see your company branding when they sign into devices using their Azure credentials. Then you need to allow devices to be joined to Azure AD. You can set this option to all, selected, or none. Obviously, the option is set to none. Then Azure AD Join will fail for all users. You can choose selected and select specific users, and choose the all option, which allows all users to join their devices to Azure AD. This setting is managed in the Azure AD Admin Center in the Device Settings area. Once a device has been joined to Azure AD, it can then be auto-enrolled into MDM. However, for this process to work, you must first configure Azure AD Auto-Enrollment. Here, you'll set the MDM user scope as shown on screen. This can be configured to none, and MDM Auto-Enrollment will be disabled. Some, where Windows 10 devices will be auto-enrolled for selected users or all. This setting is managed in the Mobility, MDM, and MAM area of the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. And in the same area, you'll need to authorize your MDM service to Azure AD. There are three URLs that you need to configure: MDM Terms of Use URL, MDM Discovery URL, and the MDM Compliance URL. There are also settings that can be managed for the Mobile Application Management, or MAM, too. However, you don't need to configure the MAM URLs, as these are not used by Intune. For the Microsoft Intune part of device enrollment, you may encounter problems if a user who tries to join a device does not have a valid Intune license for the user or device. Licenses can be managed and assigned within either the Azure AD or the Users area of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. We'll cover how to manage and assign licenses within Azure AD in a later video. The final setting that may cause an enrollment problem is the Device Enrollment Limit setting. This sets the total number of devices that a user can enroll. This limit can be managed in either the Azure AD Admin Center or the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center, as shown on screen.